So, of course, one of the difficulties in learning Linux is that your desktop or laptop might already be configured with Windows and you might not really want to be able to change that. So there are many different ways that you can look at using Linux on your Windows desktop. Here we're using Windows 10 and we're going to be taking a look at WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux. With this, we can choose different distributions and be able to cut down versions of them from our Windows system. So come on, let's go through and enable this. Now, the first thing that we need to do is to jump out to PowerShell so we can go through and set some features. So I'm running this as administrator. And as we go through, we're going to enable a couple of features: Microsoft's Windows Subsystem for Linux and the virtual machine platform. I can run this with the DISM command, but of course you could also use the graphical user interface. But this is just a little bit more direct so you can see exactly what's going on. I'll also put these as a resource so you can grab the code directly. But you can see then we're enabling the feature Microsoft Windows Subsystem Linux. We're not doing the restart so we can restart afterwards because we're going to add in the virtual machine platform feature. And again, with both of those set, I am ready to do my reset now, my reboot. So I can go through and reboot my system. And you can see that on shutting down, it goes through and puts on some updates, and on the restart, it finishes those. I can log back in, and we should be pretty much ready to go with Windows Subsystem for Linux. This is going to give you a cut-down virtual machine that you're then able to use as a Linux machine. It won't do everything, but it's going to give you a good shell that you can work with. So again, I'm going to open up the command line environment of my Windows PowerShell. And from here, we can full screen it and we manage our Linux subsystem with the WSL command. And I'm going to go through and first of all, set my default WSL to version 1. I'm actually running in a virtual machine itself. So this Windows system you're looking at is a virtual machine, and it needs additional kernel parameters being set to run WSL2. So version 1 is going to be perfectly adequate and also uses less resource on the system. With that set, I can go through and run WSL install -d, and I'm going to install the latest version of Ubuntu. This is showing in real time, so it doesn't take long, but it just grabs it from the Microsoft Store and will prompt you for a username and password as the system starts up. And say this is running in real time. There is nothing cut out of this video. Of course, it might vary a little bit based on your network speed and the speed of your host system. But we can see now that we're getting our Ubuntu system firing up. And it gives you a little bit of a warning there that it might take a few minutes, but it's very much dependent on the processor speed of your system that you are running. But again, this is running in real time, so there's nothing cut out, so it gives you an idea. Now you can see here we're being prompted for some information, but it might be a little bit easier for you guys to be able to read if I go through and just change the properties and increase the size of the font. So for demonstration purposes, obviously this is going to make a lot more sense. So I can then go through and enter a username. This is any username and password that you want. So I'm just using Tux as a username and entering whatever password I want to use. But you can see we are up and running with Ubuntu 22.04, so a reasonable recent version. We can double check its hostname, but of course our hostname does show on the prompt anyway. We can run our pwd to show our working directory, and I can use the ls command to be able to list the contents of my directory. Now I can't do absolutely everything, but I can do most things in this system. We can also shut it down, so if I go back to PowerShell and do a WSL --shutdown and then Ubuntu. And we can check our window and we can see now that has been terminated. To be able to bring the system back online, it's just a simple matter of start Ubuntu. And of course, then it starts back up and you are ready from where you left off.
All that is left to say is thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this, then you are probably sadder than I first thought. For more of this drivel, please subscribe, like and comment to @TheUrbanPenguin.